Ladies and gentlemen, you know what? Screw it. Legends! I'm not Cerberus and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking our first look at this unsightly monstrosity, the new Tier VII French premium battleship Gascogne, available in the store for 750,000 Global XP, or for the whales out there who want to convert it all, at most 30,000 doubloons. And my oh my oh my, she is definitely not a looker. But don't let those awkward angles and weird curves deceive you, however, as beneath those lie a monster of a ship ready and waiting to unleash devastating strikes against your freshly painted broadsides. If you're just here to know whether this ship is good and worth it, then I can categorically say absolutely yes, so long as you spec for accuracy. She doesn't really benefit from sitting stationary due to her awkward gun angles, so you'll want to use your mobility, follow the backline of your fleet, and looking to punish and unload upon unsuspecting targets at long range before kiting away as necessary. You should certainly try and avoid making pushes unless you absolutely have to, avoid taking broadside hits, and avoid being flanked by smaller, more nimble ships. Speaking of her range, when spec'd accordingly, Gascogne can knock on the door of 20 kilometers with shells that can reach that target relatively quickly and retain penetration over that distance. Those of you that play Iowa from the back of the team will utterly adore this ship and will be a welcome addition to your ports. And if that's all you're here for, then thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel as it helps me out greatly. As for everybody else that wants a little bit more meat to chew down upon and learn a bit more about the ship, watch on. I'll cover some of her history, my recommended build, her stats, as well as a more in-depth look at her playstyle, all accompanied by a soothing backdrop of a few games for your viewing pleasure. So, harking back to the days of the 10th Doctor, allons-y. If the ship looks a little familiar, then that's because she was planned as a variant of the Richelieu class battleships and was to be the Marine Nationale's response to the German Bismarck and Tirpitz, along with a third sister ship. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the name, but here it is. Had she been completed, she would have been the crowning glory of a mini pre-World War II naval arms race between France, Germany and Italy. When Germany produced the Deutschland class, the French responded with the Dunkirks, which the Germans then responded with the Scharnhorsts, with the Italians commissioning Vittorio Veneto and Littorio to counter the Dunkirks as well, and then the French launching Richelieu, which then the Germans launched Bismarck and Tirpitz, and then the French were going to launch that ship and Gascogne. But then World War II happened, that ship was cancelled after being laid down, and Gascogne didn't quite make it off the drawing board. Getting back to the design, the ship shares its main gun design of two quad 380mm guns with Richelieu and Jean Bart, but rather than having them both super firing forward, Gascogne has her second turret mounted on her quarterdeck. This gives her better all-round firepower at the expense of absolute frontal firepower. The secondary armour consists of 3 triple 152mm guns with 2 super firing over the forward gun and 1 over the rear gun, accompanied by 4 twin 100mm guns on each side of the superstructure amidships. Before we dive into the ship's main stats, we'll need to take a sneaky look at my loadout, which should be appearing on screen in 1, 2, 3, et voila. As mentioned earlier, accuracy build is the way to go. So we've got all out in this one with Robert Gerard, inspired by Andrew Cunningham, and for this particular build I have Henry Hyde, at least until Megatron arrives. If you don't have Hyde, then a high leveled Sims is a nice alternative, otherwise you can pretty much have free reign if I'm honest. For skills we have Flammable Cannoneer, oh hush you, Crisscross, Marksmanship, and here I've gone for reaching out XXL for maximum range. With this slot you can choose whichever one you want. And for legendary, I have gone for Will to Rebuild. Side note, Will to Rebuild is hilariously overpowered. Mystic and I managed to come back to 13,000 health from around 2,000, a good 5 to 6 times the other day. The remaining enemy ships did not have the angle or DPM to finish it off, and we ended up winning the game. Side note, I know some of you Unicum purists will be yelling out in utter disgust at the idea of recommending Flammable Cannoneer, but really, go suck a lemon or something. Because it's not as if it's going to make a damn bit of difference whether you set on fire or melted, because EOP infused Clevelands and Helenas exist, so why bother? Small tangents aside, modules we have Aim Systems Mod 1 to maximise our accuracy, we have Steering Gears Mod 2 to counteract the effects of marksmanship's negatives, Target Acquisition Mod because Wargaming don't give us anything else in that slot, and then Main Gun Mod 3 for extra reload speed. Sliding down the slipway onto the main stats, this build with level 15 legendary 2 Gizzard with Hyde and Cunningham level 16 legendary 2 manages a fairly respectable 66,610 hit points and a 35% torpedo damage reduction. The two quadruple guns can launch high velocity 380mm baguettes at your target from 19.3 kilometers, or 19.9 with the epic battle booster, every 26.4 seconds, and swing those guns around from side to side in 32.4 seconds. The shells themselves can score 5400 damage with a 36% chance to set fire with HE, and the AP shells doing a not too shabby 11,900 damage. As the most French battleships, the action of the guns themselves can be a bit funky, and RNGs will give you an occasional big fat none. But they do appear to hit slightly more regularly than Richelieu or Jean Bart. They also have a noticeably higher shell velocity and is able to hit targets from afar with relatively little lead. Onto the secondaries, and well, we have the usual 5.3km range thanks to the aim mod, with a 4-second reload on the 100mm guns and a 12-second reload on the 152mm guns, with a 6 and 12% chance to set fires respectively. Not that you'll want to be getting into situations to abuse these, however. Ability-wise, the ship has a fairly impressive 32 knot top speed, which makes her the joint fastest battleship in game, tied with Richelieu at Tier 7, and I believe Gneisenau and Hood at Tier 6, but neither of those two ships get engine boost concealment, which this ship does. When it comes to twisting and turning, you can expect a 13-second rudder shift with my current build, and the same 850-meter turning circle of her sisters. In terms of concealment, Gascogne is the least stealthy of the French battleship triumvirate, being able to be spotted at 14.8 km by sea, 12.4 by air, and 14.2 while firing a smoke screen. Unfortunately, this does put you towards the back end of the least stealthy battleships at the tier, so you need to make sure you're using your speed to its fullest. I mentioned that the ship has an engine boost earlier, so let's quickly run through her consumables, which should be popping on screen now. Quick note here, the reload times that I'm going to mention are without using the appropriate flags, so obviously you can knock around 3% off these numbers with the rare battle boosters and above. Starting the most universal consumable, you get the fairly standard 15-second duration damage control party with an 8-second cooldown. Then you have the choice of either a catapult fighter or a spotter plane, which the spotter plane should absolutely be your choice here, from which you get 4 charges. You also have the aforementioned engine boost, which increases your maximum speed by 8% for 3 minutes, as well as having a 3-minute cooldown for its 2 standard charges. Most interesting, however, is that Gascogne gets a unique repair party. Without running Will to Rebuild, you get 3 uses of it, with a run-of-the-mill 0.5% hit point per second recovery rate for 28 seconds, with Will to Rebuild and my current spec commander, I am getting 0.73% hit points per second for 19.6 seconds. But this isn't the unique aspect of the ship's repair party, no. The fact that she has a 40-second cooldown on her heals is, however, and means you can mitigate incoming damage fairly effectively in a relatively short space of time. Speaking of mitigating damage, this leads me on to the ship's playstyle, which I did touch on at the start of the video, but I want to go into a little bit more depth here. Unlike a stalemate, Gascogne does not suit merely sitting still or reversing bowing, and this is down to no small part to the position of the main battery guns. Although I must say it annoys me no end seeing Jean Bart and Richelieu players playing the ships in that particular style. This ship requires a little more finesse, as getting that rear gun on target asks you to present an uncomfortable amount of side armour, so the key to surviving and maximising your firepower is to stay mobile. Keeping a careful eye on enemy position and moving to support your team when and where you're needed the most will make or break your games. Having a ship that can quickly relocate and provide reliable, hard-hitting fire support from long range can help allow the team to make those more dangerous pushes, especially as those shells seem to have extremely good penetration even at long range, from 18 to 19 kilometers, and they have great velocity, which makes aiming with them, with a little print Oleg, a breeze. I've had no trouble at all slapping other battleships up to 22,000 damage, and that's without any citadels. When you are on that backline, don't be afraid to try and attract some fire towards yourself, and then make some fake pushes and kite away as necessary to draw the enemy attention and use your speed and rudder to evade or bounce the shots. While the preferred playstyle for this ship is to remain at long range for as long as possible, you should not be afraid to get down and dirty and make some more hazardous pushes towards the mid and late game, as long as you are not at the head of the charge, and also try and avoid those heavy cruiser and EOP light cruiser armed HE spam, because you are covered in 32mm plating. Her guns are fragile, and as you get close to the target, you're going to need to expose more and more of that squishy broadside, which, if your push goes tits up, can potentially spell doom if you're not careful. Wherever possible, making a push from a flank is preferred to reduce the likelihood of getting caught with your French knickers down by your ankles, and then getting broadsided by an Iowa. As with most battleships and legends, your secondary armour is mostly for show, with the 100mm barely struggling to penetrate wet paper tissue, and the 152mm having a terrible reload. So if you find yourself with both main guns permanently incapacitated, you're probably best trying to find yourself the nearest enemy ship and go out Pegasus style. So, Gascogne. In summary, she is a solid ship that fits a very specific role on the battlefield, with hard-hitting, high-velocity guns with reasonable reliability in the accuracy department, but awful rear gun angles mean brawling is a no-no without risk of severe return fire. Keep mobile and a careful eye on the map, prioritising threats as necessary and making careful pushes along flanks at the right time will see you through the battle. And on that note, we're going to draw the video to a close. This is a very quick first look. If you have enjoyed the video and you found it informative, please do leave a big thumbs up below and hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel out greatly and keeps us growing. Next up will be the Roma review, followed by Abruzzi, and then hopefully by Edinburgh, which keeps getting pushed and pushed further back. Dear, never mind. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take care. I'll catch you next time.